Yeah, it's not the morning after. It's more of the evening after or the morning after for some of you. But we're going to talk about this OU Iowa State game. All that coming up here in about 10 seconds. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay here with Unfair Sports, talking OU football, college football, and sports in general. And of course, in this video, we're going to talk about the OU Iowa State game that happened on Saturday. OU wins the game 27-13. So me and my boy Coop's going to talk about it late tonight, and y'all can watch it in the morning on the day after, or whatnot. But besides that, jump in the comments. Let me know how you felt about that game. Hit me with who do you think did the best in that game? Was it the offense, so an O for offense, or a D for defense? Tell me which side of the ball you felt like really shined in this game against Iowa State. While you're also here, please hit the like and subscribe button as well as share, because sharing is caring. And hop in these comments. So me and Coop's going to talk about this right now. What is good, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in here on the YouTube channel. This is the morning after reaction to Oklahoma defeating Iowa State 27-13. Of course, we got my boy Coop here. Coop, how you feeling post OU victory? I guess Monday now, good. Since this was when this is going to come out, is Monday instead of Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, okay, so if you take this and you rewind 2 weeks ago and you say, hear me out, this is what's going to happen. Every single OU fan would be like, what do you need from me? I'm in. I'm 100% in. So feel good. You know, you watch that game and again, there's a little bit of that spot where you're starting to, you know, kind of be like, oh, here we go. And any time that they pick up a long third down, 3rd and 11, where they drop back in the zone and that they throw that out route and it hits the receiver on the outside, you're thinking like, all right, here's where we break. Here's where we crumble. But the guys turned around, and not only when that stuff happened, they turned around and made plays after that. So it's a good day.
Oh yeah, it feels good. It's one of those. I know that everybody has PTSD, especially after watching the first half of that game. So the reason why this is coming out an additional day late, I was out of town this weekend or whatnot, and where I was at, my service was so bad that I really couldn't watch the game live. So I kept tuning in when I could to see updates, and then I went back and watched it on Saturday evening because there really wasn't a game on worth watching. And then I rewatched it here on Sunday after my flight Sunday evening. So I've got to see it twice, went back and evaluated. And yeah, the first half I did have the traditional PTSD that you would have as a Sooner fan. And like, oh my God, we just can't. I mean, we stopping people, but we're not. So first, let's dive into kind of our predictions from the preview show. And Coop, you were right. So Coop, let's talk to the people about where you were right. Go ahead and just take a round of applause, take a lap. Go ahead.
I will say this.
What did you call that was right?
I called for three turnovers again.
Yes, you did.
I thought that there was going to be like a strip sack fumble, maybe a couple of other picks, a deflected pass, and we got 3, and we got a couple of. You got to say that with the Broyles interception, that's one that has got to feel great for that young man. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a Sooner through and through. He's a leader. He's a captain. He's a guy who, obviously people, they place a lot of trust with him. He does it on the practice field. So it was great to see that from him. So, but anyway, I did say I called for three turnovers, and I'm not calling you out at all, but I saw your face like, that would be nice.
Yeah, I was like, we ain't seen turnovers here in a while, and I mean, not to doubt you, it's just, I mean, we haven't seen them really. Like, they show up at the end of the game when the game's like actually over. Like, I want some turnovers mid-game, and so, I mean, I did have some doubts, but at the same time, I was optimistic, kind of.
And it also was great for Woody also because he's, we're going to have some PTSD from the TCU game. That guy panicked, he grabbed, he didn't do it right. So, but that's what I did call. So, congratulations. I still want that R. Mason Thomas strip sack for the fumble, scoop and score. It's coming. Maybe this week.
Cross our fingers and toes. And it's funny. Let's dive right into that one. The turnover schooner needs to be worn by somebody. I know that the turnover chain was kind of abolished by Miami, which I felt was disrespectful in that aspect, which is I think is why they're playing so bad. But that's neither here nor there. I miss that turnover. I miss those turnovers that we used to get like last couple years under Grinch. That was one thing I did mention on the show. We on the preview that was something that we did get really good from him, is that he focused and taught how to make those turnovers happen. And in this game, we got it. And I think it's even more fitting that it's two of the dudes that everybody's been complaining about, from Danny Stutzman as well as Justin Broles over the last couple of weeks. A lot of people have been wanting their heads, and they're the ones that got those turnovers, which warmed my heart to see that. So 3 turnovers, awesome. And that Woody Washington one, I'm gonna say we got 2.5, because that first one I question, but at the same time we got it. No matter what, the refs gave it to us. But yeah, that was overly questionable. So I understood why Iowa State fans were pretty pissed off about that one.
I call makeup from Oregon. I'm
fair.
Way back in the day.
Fair. That's a long time ago.
Long
time ago. That's funny. Okay, so let's go ahead and lead off with talking about the offense and really how good we did. No, you know what? Scale back. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball, because I think that was probably one of the more impressive defensive play games that we've had, and not just the interceptions and turnovers we got. I mean, we only got 1 sack in that game. We did have 8 tackles for a loss, which to me is always huge. That means that we're working, but there was a little bit more to this that made me feel like we're getting back on the right page and right back on track. So hear me out on this one. First and foremost, Iowa State's defense is legit, period. I see why they're the number 1 defense in the Big 12 and why they're roughly a top 20 defense in the country. Their defense is legit. It's really good. They were shadowing some of our top guys a lot and was making it really difficult with their 3-3-5 scheme to really get going the way we want to. Now, we did finish the game with over 100 rushing yards in the game. So, overall, we were technically able to kind of get what we wanted out of this game. But at the same time, their defense is real. So, shout out to Iowa State for having a really good defense and showing out. But at the same time, because we had 182 yards rushing in this game. And that's not something Iowa State gives up a lot of rushing yards. That's the one thing, that's the biggest problem and the big flaw in the 3-3-5 is that unless you've got really big linebackers or really big nose tackle, like over 320, 330, you're going to give up a lot of rushing yards. And in this game, we got it. And we'll talk about offense a little bit later, because I do need to throw some praise on a particular person. But on our defensive side, what jumped out to you the most about the way we play? Because I've got a lot of thoughts on that.
So I'll start out with this. We saw 4 different defensive linemen make a tackle for loss.
Yes, we did.
So it was spread out. It wasn't just like early in the season when you had Grimes doing everything. You had linebackers, and then you had Key Lawrence from the secondary come up. So in 8 tackles for loss, we had several guys coming up and really putting it down. So that's something that's encouraging. You had people who learned. I say the biggest, the absolute biggest, and I got to say this, that when I saw the first part of what I'm about to say, I almost lost it. But that touchdown, they put Stutzman in a spot where he had to think. He had one job, and he did it about as wrong as you could potentially do. Gives up a touchdown, makes it. I think at that point it was, 1-score game.
Yep, it was. It was 20-13 at that point.
They tried to do it again, and he atoned for his sins. Now I got to say, usually when guys intercept the ball and they toss it back to a faster guy, I'm always like, why would you do that? Stutzman needed to toss it back to a faster guy because he was not going to make the end zone. It reminded me of DK Metcalf running down
and Buda Baker chasing him.
Buda Baker, yeah. And
Buda Baker
so,
thinking he's had a touchdown, and then DK
oh
sucked him
man,
up. Yeah,
it's that's a meme maker right there. But you saw Danny Stutzman learn from what he was doing.
right.
Broyles had a good game, and you know what? There's a player, and I think that we as Sooner Nation need to start getting crafting a letter for, and that's Deshaun White, because people were ready to write dude off and to send him to the sun, set Western style, and he has been a dominant force. I mean, I would say borderline dominant force for 3 weeks now.
No, I
He
agree.
has came back even. You got to take away the Texas game, because again it's just a little bit of an outlier. But Deshaun White, ever since one of his massive busts against K State, he has gotten smarter, and we saw Brent Venables' handprint and thumbprint really take shape after this bye week. Again, how many points did we give up here? And if I would have told you that that was going to be the outcome, every single Sooner fan would have taken that, because keeping a team under 3 touchdowns didn't seem possible a couple weeks ago.
No, I agree. And this is the one jumped out to me about the defense in this game, is that we actually play good against an offense that's bad. We actually went out there and stopped letting them feel like they had an opportunity to win this game. Because to me, this entire game, they had no opportunity whatsoever when it comes to winning this game. And you can tell by the way our defense played, we didn't really give them a chance. We took the lead and we just kept piling on them. And yeah, you may think that, oh, well, the game was still close. Yeah, the score appeared to be close, but watching that game, you could tell it wasn't. The defense was all over the place enough to make it hell for Iowa State, because Iowa State's offense is not good. Hunter Deckard is not very good right now, and you can tell he's young. He looks bad, and we forced him to play a game that he did not want to play. We made him pass the ball a lot. And I say this for a particular reason. He threw the ball for 300 yards. Yeah, you would say, oh, he went through for 308 yards. Isn't that good? He threw it 57 times and completed 37. So he averaged 5 yards a throw. It was like they were running the ball the entire time.
Yeah.
That was a terrible game for him. You want opposing teams to throw. If they throw for 300 yards, you want them to throw it and have to complete over 30 passes. That means that you've done your job on defense, because he's going to complete passes. It's impossible to keep a team from doing it. That's what the defense looked great on. And then on top of that, the run defense was fantastic. Now, we let Deckers get 31 yards rushing. He only ran it 4 times because he couldn't do it. That 28-yard run was big, but 66 rushing yards in this game was freaking-tastic. And that's what you want out of a defense that's starting to progress better. We still don't have the depth, but they look good. And did I see Gentry Williams out there? Did I see some Gentry early? Did I see him early?
Out there.
Oh,
he was out there early, and he had again, it was borderline. There was no call on it, but guess what? If it's not called on the field, it's not going to be on the box score.
Exactly.
And, he definitely had a play there earlier, and you run into Robert Spears Jennings. He had some early playing time also. So yeah, we're starting to see some younger kids come in and get some run time, and you like to see competition when they're in there, and that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, and it's good to get that cycle of players. Like, so when I saw him out there, I was like, oh, I like seeing some Gentry. And then Robert Spears Jennings got out there. He got him a tackle in this game, and so he looked really good.
Yeah,
playing out there. So we're seeing the growth. Billy Bowman came back and, of course, did what the Billy Bowman things that he does. And you mentioned the Stutzman mess up, and then he snafu, and then he fixed it right afterwards with that interception. But that was the only touchdown given up out of position. But at the same time, the defense itself was good. So let's jump to the offense so we can kind of move on. Offensively, Iowa State's really good at defense, and I mentioned that before for a reason.
Yeah.
They held Oklahoma. They held us as a team 334 yards in total, and that to me is a big deal. That tells you just how strong their defense is, but it also showed how we adapted to it. There was a lot of trickery in this game. We saw a lot of end arounds with like Gavin Freeman, which I appreciated. The touchdown by the kicker, by Schmidt. He had the first 13 points for us in this game, which I was totally for. I like the fact that, and then we did the Wildcat with Eric Gray to get the other touchdown. We have to throw some trickery to get the motor going against a very good defense. And so this to me was a very strong performance by Jeff Lebby outside of what the
Yep.
statistics showed. Because you have to figure out how to get past good teams like this on the defensive side. Because the one thing that holds Iowa State back is the offense, and we were able to go past the defense and get our defense to help us by getting that interception by Stutzman, getting us to the 2 yard line to add to the offensive side. So each side of the ball tried to help the other. And that to me is probably the best thing that we saw in this game on the offensive side. And like you mentioned, Mims had a bad game. He was plagued by some drop passes. I saw some passes come right in his hands, right through his arms, and then you're
Yeah.
like, oh man. But he was just off. And I think it was more so because Iowa State was keying on him. They knew that he was going to be the biggest problem to them. And then Jalil Farouk showed up. Theo Weiss dropped that pass that was deep. It was kind of lofty, but it was a one-on-one play.
Catchable.
And it was like very much, it hit his hands. The defender was all over him, but it hit his hands. So it was one of those, you would traditionally see Weiss make that catch. And I'm okay with him dropping that. I'm hoping that he didn't kick himself too hard for it because it's going to happen. But he did a really good job of at least battling for the ball. At least he didn't quit on it. And so with the way the defense was set on that pass defense, they were built specifically to slow down Dylan Gabriel, and they were successful. But like you said, we beat them with their own game, and so instead, we just ran it down their throat. So instead of them, we got 182 yards on the ground, they got 66. So our run defense was a lot stronger on that, and I really appreciate that. What did you see on the opposite side that jumped out to you?
I mean, first and foremost, yes, Marvin Mims had a game that he will probably never have again. And I would
Yeah.
venture to say that if you've got money at the window this week, Marvin Mims is going to be active early and he is going to be active often. That is going to happen. We're going to find, Levy's going to find ways to get him involved because, again, you want him to get re-engaged. Farouk, and that touchdown pass, Gabriel said, listen, we saw the look, we made the play call, and everything was good. The interior of the offensive line held tight right there. You saw double teams between the guard in the center, and he stepped right up and lofted that ball. And not only was it open, but he was wide open. And so it's good to see Farouk doing that. You saw Marcus Major come back. A lot of people were starting to wonder, hey, listen, is he even going to be a factor anymore? Because Javante Barnes has a twitch and explosiveness that he does not have. But he didn't see a carry this week. So you saw Marcus Major, even though he only averaged 2.4 carry, he's not an easy tackle, and folks don't want to come up and put a hit on him because he still is going to put it down. So what do I think about this is I think that Levy had some calls at certain times that maybe a little confusing. There were several times that, and again, I'll say this, it's a catch-22 because, right, when you go back down last year and years before, Lincoln would give up on the run and we would be like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you just stay committed to the run? And then at times on this weekend, you saw him running right into the strength of their defensive line. And I was getting so frustrated because I'm like, if you're attacked to the edges, if you're going to attack it, because that middle is where they're strong. They're strong. They're not going to let you have that. We were having some success out there, but we stayed committed to the run, and it paid off because you saw at the end of the game, you saw us really making pushes. And so, what do I think? The overall is yes, it was a pedestrian day for Dylan Gabriel, but it was an overall team win. And I promise you this, again, where were we just a few weeks ago? Doom and gloom, it was an understatement. And now we did what we were supposed to do and had to do to go up to Ames, Iowa, which has a lot of people don't really do well up there. We gave them their largest loss of the year. We scored the second most against them that any other team had scored. Baylor threw up 31. And so, we're coming back now. Baylor is at home. They look completely beatable. Oklahoma State, that's a different conversation. That game looked, potentially a little dangerous, and we needed some stuff to happen. But after this week, there's not anybody saying that they're just an automatic loss against OU. So
No, yeah.
we've got some good stuff moving, and we're taking those steps to really show the identity that Brent Venables wants this team to have.
Yeah, and I want to pay my respects to Eric Gray again. Continue to apologize
Mm-hmm.
to my man for the slander I gave to him at the beginning of the season,
Yeah,
which it wasn't really slander. It was more of a, I felt like he would be
lack of
defeat more of
respect.
a, yeah, and it wasn't even really lack of respect. It was more
That's
of,
fine.
I felt like, he wasn't as, I didn't think he was going to be as dominant. And then he gives me
Yeah,
another 100-yard rushing game. And I'm just like,
five
goodness,
point
my
one.
man. Yeah, just go ahead and just curse me out, call me names, do what you want to do, and I appreciate that.
I'm okay with
We
that.
need it, and so he's filling in the Kennedy Brooks role very well. He should finish this year with
Mm-hmm.
1,000 yards rushing, as strong of a rushing performance he's has this season. 20 carries, 101 with the touchdown. Him and Major looked good. I saw that Javante Barnes did not make the trip. I'm guessing that he is dinged up. So we'll probably see him coming up against Baylor as he stayed back to nurse injury or whatnot. And so, but I'm more so Eric Gray is doing what he's supposed to do. He's getting his yards. We're scheming a lot better on the offensive side. The offensive line is blocking a lot better. The wide receivers are blocking a lot better. So we're getting a lot of big chunk plays. I'm thinking that this week coming up against Baylor, and we'll do a preview show, and we'll have that out probably on Thursday. The bigger things for this team is making sure that we keep, like you said, establish the run, and we're doing that now. And I'm proud of this team
Stay committed.
for providing that. The commitment is there. You can tell. And we had 2 drives in the first half that were over 5 minutes, which was the biggest shocker to me. I'm like, we actually had the ball for a while. What is this? But I think that was more of Iowa State's defense kind of imposing their will instead of
Mm-hmm.
us trying to go out there and do our thing. Because we know once we went deep to Jalil Farouk on that busted play on them and got that 41-yard touchdown,
Loosened
it was
up.
one of those, they adjusted quickly to prevent major deep plays like that again.
And
So,
if you don't mind,
yeah.
just a little stats for you. Right now, Eric Gray, and again, apology letter. I'll be the first one on that petition. He's number 1 in the Big 12 for yards per carry,
Yep.
and number 4 in yards. And I believe that he's behind Bijan, Deuce, and he's behind somebody else, but he's number 4 in yards. Statistically, DG still number 6 in passing yards, number 3 in the Big 12 in passing rating, and Mims is still the number 4 receiver when it comes to receiving yards, and that's with a -2 at Texas, and then I believe it was 11 yards, 16 yards here in this game. So this
I got it for you
offense
right
is
here.
still okay.
For the Big 12, Bijan's the number 1 running back at 115 a game. Deuce is number 2. Deuce Vaughn is 2. Kendre Miller at TCU is number 3.
Miller,
He's got
TCU.
over
That's who I was
800
thinking.
yards. And then 4th is Eric Gray at 796. So he's on pace to hit 1,000 yards
Yeah,
this season
he's going to hit that.
easily.
Mhm.
That's huge. That's huge. And then Adrian Martinez is 6th, which is absurd. He has over 500 yards
Yeah.
rushing this season. Good God. But
We didn't help out with that.
no, we did not at all. That's really quite terrible on our part, but we won't talk about that. And then you talk about passing wise. Let's see. Dylan Gabriel is 4th in yards per game. He is 6th in yards total, and he still missed a game. And he is
Game and a half. Yeah.
Yep, 3rd in touchdowns on the season in the Big 12. So we're still putting up the numbers, and our players are doing what they're supposed to do statistically. We're you can't beat that. Eric Gray is one of the top backs in the Big 12 right now. I mean, he's not Bijan, but he's averaging 99 yards a game, where Bijan's averaging 115. It's just that Bijan's right there at being at 1,000 yards this season. Let's see. Bijan has how many yards? He's at 920. So yeah.
And
Shout out to Eric Gray. Put up numbers.
Bijan's obviously going to be first round draft pick and All-American candidate. He's a stud. Eric Gray, we just thought this was him starting until Marcus Major took that from him. Eric Gray deserves every single bit of accolades that he's getting right now, because we thought he was just another guy coming out of Tennessee. We saw him last year and we saw what he was. I mean, he got the start over Kennedy Brooks. We felt silly about that. And so we felt silly thinking that we were going to see something different. And again, he made it a point to be more decisive and to break more tackles this year. And if you listen to some of the preseason rumblings from him, that's what he did. So again, I say do this is our offense is taking care of itself, and even with bad outcomes, you turn one of those drops from Mims, maybe that deep throw to Weiss, turn a field goal into a touchdown, and we're looking at a 40-point game here.
Yeah.
And that's against a team who hadn't given up more than 31. So we'll see it continue to go. And let's not forget about the offensive line. We're starting to see a lot of Robert Conjal come in at guard. There's a little bit of a rotation there, and people are starting to hold up. Wanye had a little bit of a tough game, but Anton Harrison continues to go up against these big guys and to show out. Again, I said it last week. This was going to be the biggest fight in the phone booth up to this season. Now we've beaten the first round guy. If you think, oh, Mike Tyson's punch out, right? So we beat the big Russian. Now we get to go about against Big Mike as far as the defensive line goes. This is going to be a tough task, but we're showing that we can do it.
We are. And so be excited, Suitor fans. That was a really good game. Even though the score wasn't a blowout like we would have liked, this was a very big game for the team itself. So with that, thank you all for tuning in here on Unfair Sports with my man Coop. Coop, thanks for pulling up as usual.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you all hit the like and the subscribe button, as well as share. Why? Because sharing is caring. We're on the drive for 2,500. We need to get those extra subs. So if you're watching these videos and you are kind of lurking, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and join the family. We'll have some more cool stuff coming down the line once we get closer to 3,000. Makes it a lot more viable to make the magic happen. So with that, thanks for tuning in. Coop, thanks for pulling up as usual.
I love
We're
it.
out. Peace.